Hey guys, Sean here. Welcome to the F1 Word and to the preview for the 2025 Japanese Grand Prix. Oh yes, we're off again, and for the first time this season, we've got a triple header to look forward to, so hopefully loads of great action to come over the next few weeks. So following one of those strategy intrigue races in China that was won by Oscar Piastri, Lewis Hamilton of course winning the sprint, it is on to the frankly wonderful 5.807 kilometre, 3.6 mile, 18 corner Suzuka Circuit. Maybe not a surprise, but one of my favourites on the calendar, and again the first of 3 races on the bounce. Also, and it's practically a cliche at this point, the only figure of 8 track on the F1 calendar. As was the case last season, there'll be just the one DRS zone to aid with overtaking, and that is down the start-finish straight, with its detection point cropping up through the famous 130R corner, or turn 15 if you prefer numbers to names. It's not the easiest track to pass on, and that is made tougher by having just the one DRS section, but that doesn't mean there aren't opportunities around the rest of the lap. For example, although tricky, we do often see cars side by side through the first couple of corners. One of the better places to make a move is at the Turn 11 Kobayashi hairpin, and the final chicane is also another great spot to try one too. Or, you know, if a driver is feeling particularly brave, they could try one around the outside of 130R, as Fernando Alonso did to Michael Schumacher back in 2005. What a move that was. There has been a major change to the circuit since last season, with a new surface having been laid from the exit of the last chicane to the end of the first sector, but the second and third sectors remain untouched. So whilst there may be a bit of a repeat of what we saw on the new surface at Shanghai a couple of weeks ago, it's not going to be as big of an issue here. That said, the new asphalt does run through the famous S's that snake up the hill, so it might get a bit interesting through there. On top of that, there have also been changes to some of the curbs and runoff areas, with Turn 9 now featuring a higher double curb, while gravel traps have been placed on the outside of Turns 2, 7, 9, 14 and 17, and they have replaced the synthetic grass, the AstroTurf if you like. Now, the race at Suzuka first appeared on the World Championship calendar back in 1987, and aside from a brief spell in 2007 and 2008 where the race was held at Fuji, the circuit has played host to the Japanese Grand Prix ever since. 17 different drivers have tasted victory at the circuit over the years, with Michael Schumacher picking up the most with 6, which of course includes his emotional win in 2000 as he crossed the finish line to clinch his first of 5 drivers' titles for Ferrari. That was 25 years ago, and I still remember it vividly. 25 flipping years. And that was just one of the many memorable moments at the circuit, with others including the coming together of Senna and Prost in 1989 and 1990, Kobayashi's incredible home race podium in 2012, and who can forget Kimi Raikkonen's unbelievable drive in 2005 to go from 17th on the grid to snatching victory from Giancarlo Fisichella on the final lap of the race. What a drive. Some other stats for you before we move on. As well as the most wins with 6, Michael Schumacher also has the most poles at the track with 8. Races at Suzuka have been won from pole position on 18 occasions, and Max Verstappen has won the race in Japan from pole in each of the last 3 seasons. Yes, 3 poles and 3 wins in a row for Max. And it just so happens that 3 is also the number of dry tyre compounds available across a race weekend. Oh yeah, that's right, it's tyre talk time once again. The compounds available for this one then are the hardest in the Pirelli range, and so they are the hard C1, the medium C2 and the soft C3. Why? Well, Suzuka is one of the toughest tracks on the calendar when it comes to tyre stress, and the hardest sets tend to work well around the high energy layout. So not a massive surprise to see Pirelli going this way again. Interestingly though, Pirelli says in its press release that the manufacturer's pre-event simulations suggest that lap times will come down thanks to the combined effect of the additional grip from the new surface I mentioned earlier, but also the inevitable increase in performance from the 2025 cars, which is reckoned will be around about the 1.5 second mark. Something to keep an eye on. When it comes to strategy, well, last year race winner Max Verstappen pitted twice, with stops on laps 16 and 34, and ran 2 sets of the medium tyres for the first 2 stints, and finished the race on a set of hard compound tyres. Much of the field changed tyres following the first lap red flag, but ignoring that, most drivers pitted twice, although we had a really good mix of strategies throughout the field, with a couple of drivers pitting 3 times, again excluding that red flag change, and a couple of others only stopped the once. The one stopper working really well for Charles Leclerc in particular. So I'd be surprised if we don't see a multi-stop race on Sunday, but hopefully we'll see plenty of variation across the field again. A couple of other points worth a quick reminder are that the undercut was pretty effective here last year, and that the soft tyre, whilst it struggles significantly with degradation, still played a part, although mainly at the race start and late on in the Grand Prix. What I'm saying is we could see some really interesting strategy calls being made on Sunday, especially if we get some safety cars, virtual or full, which are actually fairly common at Suzuka. Oh, and of course, the weather can be very unpredictable at Suzuka, as we've seen many times over the years. So that could really spice the weekend up as well. And as I record this on Wednesday afternoon, rain is a possibility for the race on Sunday, but let's see if that's still the case in the coming days. And your schedule for this one is, once again, an early one here in the UK, across Europe, and I'm sure elsewhere too. And a reminder that following the China Sprint, it is back to a more traditional weekend format. That means FP1 will kick the weekend off on Friday from 3:30 AM BST, and as you'd expect, that is followed by FP2 at 7 AM. Saturday's action gets started with FP3 at 3:30 AM with qualifying underway at 7 AM, and it is lights out for the race on Sunday at 6 AM, and once again, that is in UK time. Now, before I get on to making some predictions for the Japanese Grand Prix, let's have a quick run through some news stories and talking points ahead of the weekend, and there has been one major change since the race in Shanghai. On the off chance you've just arrived from Mars, welcome, and have no idea what F1 is, let alone what's been happening at Red Bull since the Chinese Grand Prix, it was confirmed late last week that following a difficult start to the season, Red Bull has chosen to demote Liam Lawson back to Racing Bulls and promote Yuki Tsunoda to the main team to become Max Verstappen's latest teammate. Yes, that's right, the decision just about everyone and their dog thought was the logical way to go at the end of last year has finally become a thing. 2 whole races deemed more than enough to expect Lawson to get up to speed and on top of the RB21. Red Bull things. Ahead of his home Grand Prix and first race weekend with the team, Tsunoda said that it's been a bit of a crazy week, I can imagine, and that his emotions were a mix of excitement and motivation. He went on to say that the message he has been given by Red Bull is to keep doing what he's been doing and to perform. He also said that he needs to be as close to teammate Max Verstappen as possible to try and compete for the Constructors' title and benefit the team strategically in every race. Specifically on the car, Yuki said, quote, "I am aware of the challenges the RB21 has, and my job is to try to understand it and develop this car too," before adding, again, quote, "I've been working with my new team in the UK over the last week to prepare as best I can. I will take learnings from Max and try and get the most from this weekend for the team." Good luck, Yuki. Next up, a couple of teams are going to be running special liveries at Suzuka this weekend. Red Bull will pay tribute to Honda at Japan to mark the final season of the partnership between the team and the engine manufacturer. The livery, inspired by Honda's RA272 first victory in the sport, features the iconic Japanese flag motif, the H logo on the nose and the simple Honda logo on the rear of the bodywork, with a special logo commemorating 60 years since Honda's first F1 victory also displayed across both the Red Bull and Racing Bull cars. Elsewhere, Haas will celebrate the official launch of Cherry Blossom season in Japan by paying homage to the Sakura with a bespoke livery featuring a flower motif. And I have to say, whilst I like the Red Bull special livery, I think I prefer the Haas one. It's just been done really well. Let me know which one is your favourite down below. And in case you spotted it on social media in the week and thought they might be running it, the steak livery teased on socials by Sauber's sponsor Steak was an April Fool's joke, thank Christ. And we have, at time of recording, just the one FP1 driver change schedule for this one. Earlier this week, having already announced it when they signed him back in January, Alpine confirmed that reserve driver Ryo Hirakawa will replace Jack Doohan for the first practice session in Japan. An excited Hirakawa, who took part in FP1 in Abu Dhabi last year for McLaren, said he couldn't wait to drive the car on Friday morning and that he has everything prepared, having spent time in the simulator at Enstone a few days ago. If there are any other FP1 driver changes between me recording this and the video going out, I'll let you know down below, but just the one as it stands. And don't forget that Jonathan Wheatley starts his new role as Sauber team principal this weekend at Suzuka. Right then, time to make some awful predictions, and as always, please do not take these too seriously. They're just a little bit of fun, but if you do disagree with my picks, then you can let me know yours in the comment section down below. And last time, better, sure, but still pretty bad. So let's get rid of those, wipe them from our minds, and quickly move on. Look, I'd be very surprised if we don't see another McLaren 1-2 on Sunday. The car should, for the most part, be very well suited to the circuit, and I don't think it's controversial to say they are clearly the team to beat right now. I think Red Bull and Mercedes will be somewhere in the mix, probably battling for that final podium spot, Whereas Ferrari are reportedly said to be convinced that the true potential of the SF25 will be unleashed this weekend after a breakthrough in the simulator, with La Gazzetta dello Sport claiming the team tried as many as 20 different setup adjustments in the sim since the Chinese Grand Prix in an attempt to resolve their early season issues. So maybe they'll be in the mix, maybe they won't, but as a long-suffering Ferrari fan, I've kind of given up trying to work out which version of the team will turn up at any given weekend. Therefore, I'll go with the Lando Norris pole and win, with Oscar Piastri following him home closely in P2. With Max Verstappen taking the final step on the podium, Piastri can have the fastest lap too for what it's worth. As for the 5th best finishing team on Sunday, I've gone with Williams at each of the last 2 races, and although that was the case last time out, I'll actually switch it up and go with Racing Bulls for this one. My separate bolder picks this week, which always seem to upset someone for some reason, are for a Williams sneaking into the top 5 in qualifying. Liam Lawson hits the ground running at Racing Bulls and at a track he knows well to score points on Sunday. And on that note, and given how others have struggled with that car, I think you could say it's bold to say that Yuki Tsunoda outqualifies both Racing Bull cars and finishes ahead of them in the race, although given what we've seen in recent years, that could go either way. No shade towards Yuki there at all, by the way, just the car. That is it for the Japanese Grand Prix preview then, but don't forget you can let me know your thoughts and your predictions ahead of the weekend in the comments section down below. And for the latest news, analysis and reaction from the world of Formula 1, head on over to planetf1.com. But as ever, thank you for watching. I've been Sean, this has been the F1 Word, and until next time, goodbye.